All right, welcome back to Vlogmas. We're on to day 3, and today I was going to do a challenge outside, but it was super crazy windy, and after I finished league, there was no chance with the wind and the rain I was going to be able to get out and film. So today, we're instead going to do a tier list of the top courses in Western New York. I'm calling Western New York anything from Rochester all the way over to Buffalo. However, there's a couple of courses in Buffalo that I haven't played, which I'm not going to include in this. So as two honorable mentions, I included some courses from Corning. So I'm going to put those at the end, and I'll talk about those a bit when we get there. So they're not going to sort of be included in this Western New York tier list that I'm doing, but because I don't have every course, we're going to add them in there. So let's start off with Basil Morella. I'm going to put Basil Morella in, and the way I'm going to do this is all the way to the left is the highest rank of the tier, and then it's going to go to the right. So I'm going to order them within the tiers as well. Basil Morel is going to go in A. Basil Morel is just a great course, good woods course. It's probably like A minus, honestly. It could be at the top of B tier, but I think it belongs in A. It's just there's a couple holes that I think have trees there that aren't really necessary, but it's a great course. So, belongs in A tier. Next up is Bond Lake. This obviously goes in S tier, right? There's a reason why it's the top rated course in New York, like every year. It's fantastic, and I highly recommend you play it if you ever get a chance. Fantastic course, awesome shots, beautiful, just all the way through. Blue tees, white tees, it's all awesome. Chilai, this is my local course right now. Pretty historic course. 1999 Worlds played here, 2014 RFDO played here. A lot of big names: Ken Clamo, Simon Lizotte, Jeremy Colling, Paul Macbeth, Nate Doss. All these guys have played here. Garrett Gerthy's played here. Awesome course. Highly recommend you get a chance to play it. But again, the S tier ones are going to be the ones we want to look at first. But it's a good course and very historic, so got to belong in the A tier. All right, next up is Churchville. I played this course once, and I think it's recently redesigned. I'm going to put it in C. The signage really wasn't good, if there was any at all. If you weren't on UDIS, there was no way you would even know where you were going. It's all kind of in a public area, so again, without signage, it's like not clear where you should be throwing. And there's a lot of holes that are like really easy. I think there's like an 80-foot one or something. Like you could basically jump putt it. So there's a couple that are like trivially easy, like eagleable par fours, and not good signage. So it's not a terrible course, and I think they're doing more with it. But as it stands right now, probably belongs in C tier. All right, we have Como Lake. I've played here a handful of times. I say this belongs in A tier. I would put it above Basil. It's a pretty good course. Lots of interesting shots, thrown over the water. I might even put it ahead of Chilai. It's a good course, and there's a lot of cool shots. And I haven't played there in a while, and I think they've done a little bit, especially on like the front nine, to make it a little better. So I feel comfortable putting it in the front of A tier for now. Ellicott Creek. This may be one of the courses I've played the most on here. I'm gonna put it in B. A lot of these like public park courses are probably gonna end up in the B tier, just because they typically are sort of intertwined with public spaces, which makes them kind of not as interesting just by their nature. And also you're going to be running into people and pedestrians and stuff, and they're going to attract a lot of beginner people. I'll try to rank these as best as I can based on just the courses alone, but these are factors, and the baskets are going to be old. It's a pretty good course, nothing special. They're doing some work on it, which is good, but it's in the B tier. There's nothing wrong with that. Next up is Ellison. Pretty much the same thread. I'm going to put it behind Ellicott Creek in B tier. This is a really historic course, and it's awesome. It has a lot of cool shots, and it's honestly pretty good. The only problem with it is, again, the public space thing. A lot of beginners come here, so it can be, if you just want to get around in, it can be kind of annoying with big groups and people who are just playing, which is fantastic. But for the purposes of being a good course to play at consistently, maybe not so much. And the baskets are just ridiculously old. Some of them are basically falling apart, and they do not catch very well. So that's going to knock it down a peg. I think it comfortably sits in the B tier. It's a good course, but there's some things that could probably be cleaned up about it. Black Diamond Emory, I mean, these are some of the most challenging gold tees you're probably going to play in all of New York, if I were to guess. I think Black Diamond's very difficult and very fun. The white tees and the gold tees are great. We'll ignore the blue tees because no one really plays them, but maybe they could be better. But I think as whites and golds, the alternate pin positions you can have, it's a fantastic course, very challenging, and I think it reminds me a lot of Brewster, which I went and saw at Green Mountain Championship. same level of difficulty and shot shaping. I could definitely see this being like a Silver Series course. Next up is Houghton. I'm going to include both of the courses together, so Field of Dreams and the Woods. And also I'm including this in the Western New York, even though it's kind of more southern, but it works. And it's a good course in the area, so it should be included. I think this comfortably goes in the front of A tier. It's not quite an S tier course, but it's really good. And the Woods is nice and challenging. The nice open field for the Field of Dreams course is nice. There's maybe a couple of holes on Field of Dreams and maybe even on Woods that are not super interesting, but I mean, overall, it's a comfortably A+ tier course. Frommer Woods, I love these sort of privately owned courses that you have a small number of people working on. I think they tend to be really well maintained and pretty interesting and sort of bring the community together in a way that a lot of these public courses can't quite do because the town tends to own them. I think Frommer Woods sits in the A tier comfortably, probably right ahead of Basel. I think it's a better Woods course than Basel is. But they both have sort of their different ways of being good. But overall, I would say I think Frommer's a little better. Pine Woods is another one of those public courses. I mean, it's all short shots, great for beginners, great if you want to get a quick round in, especially like during a lunch break or something. But I can't, you can't put it with any of these other courses really. It's going to sit at the bottom of B tier. I wouldn't put it in C because there's nothing like terrible about it. It's just not that special of a course. It is what it is. It's if you took your sort of local beginner par 3 9-hole course and extended it to 18 holes, it's kind of what it is. And it's great for what it is, but nothing exciting. All right, we have Chestnut. I'm tempted to put this in the C tier, but I'm going to put it in B. I'm going to put it in the bottom of B. It's a pretty good course. I'll put it above Pine Woods. It's an interesting course, but the problem with it is the pars are just not accurate. And even though it shouldn't technically matter, if I didn't know what any of the pars are, I'm sure maybe I would rate it a little bit higher. But, I feel like you need to know sort of a good idea of the design of the course and how it should be played. I guess I could maybe put it in B, a little higher, but I don't know. It feels like it was designed hastily, and they could have made the pars a little bit more interesting and made it a little bit more challenging, and it could be a lot better of a course. And the time I did play it, I don't remember thinking the tee pads are that great. I might have to go back. It could end up going back into A tier, but for now I'm going to put it in B because there's a couple of things I remember not thinking were great about it, but overall it's a perfectly fine course, and I think it is fine for being in B tier. Next up is Riverton. This is another local course to me, pretty close to me. The only real downside to this course is you have to walk down the hole 1 fairway of the golf course to get there, but it'd be really nice if you could just park at hole 1 of the disc golf course. But this is a fantastic course. I think it sits in the bottom of S tier pretty comfortably. It could be at the front of A, but I think this is a fantastic course. It's maintained pretty well, nice turf tee pads and a lot of cool shots. I'll put it at the top of A. I don't think it's quite S tier because these two are just, I think, a little bit of a league ahead of Riverton. But Riverton is a perfectly fine course. I would say it's A+, bordering on S-. All right, Rollington Ravine. I've only played this course, I think, once or twice, but this is an awesome course. I think it's pretty challenging. It's a lot of fun. I would put it right behind Black Diamond. It might even jump up ahead for me eventually, but I think it easily sits in S tier. I was tempted to put it in A tier because I haven't played it very much and it hasn't been around long enough to have a lot of rounds there. But I think on first glance, it's very good, and it's pretty easily in S tier. All right, Shadow Pines. I wanted this to be an S tier course, and I think it could be with the right changes. There's just a couple of holes that leaves a bit to be desired. It could be a lot better, and I think it wanted to be better, but I guess they didn't get as much land as they wanted to. So if they do get that land before putting everything in permanently, it could change. The tee pads aren't in yet. But for now, I think it's probably an A tier course, maybe behind Houghton. I mean, it's good. There's just 2-3 holes where it either feels like a shot was sort of reused, or just the one where you're teeing off from the street and throwing sort of like a 250 upshot with the hazards. I don't know. And maybe this is just me, but I'm not a huge fan of the OB hazards that are on the course. The courses on the Pro Tour that I've played with those as well, I haven't always been a huge fan of. So that might drop it a little bit lower. But I think it's a very good course. There are just a couple nitpicky things I would say I'm not the hugest fan of. But like we have right here, hole 18, one of my favorite holes to play in the area. So there's a lot of great shots, and it's definitely a top tier course. Williamson, I'm gonna put right above Basel. Williamson is a pretty good course, and they just revamped it to be a lot more challenging. New tee pads, and the only thing I'd say is not great about it is the signage probably needs to be updated. But it's a pretty good course, and I'm pretty happy with the new tee pads and locations and how they did all that. I would put it comfortably in the bottom of A tier. It's definitely not a B tier course. It's not up there with like Riverton, but it's good and it's worth playing. All right, Shorewinds, The Beast, and Windrush Alley are both going to be in the same category, or sort of in the same course grouping. This is again an S tier course. It's fantastic. I mean, this is the first course I played a tournament at, and every time I've come back, I've liked it even more. The blue tees are very challenging. The whites are, again, fun. I like when these courses have blue and white tees. It feels like you can play almost two different courses on the same layout, basically. So really fun. It's obviously windy, right? It's Shorewinds, but it's a great course. Williamson, I would say Williamson is a good course. I think they've recently done a little bit more work, and it might even have new baskets. I don't quite remember, but there's a lot of cool shots. The only downside I would say is the back nine as you're coming down, where all of the trees are on your right, coming back to sort of where you started by the parking lot. You throw like I think 3 in a row, just big forehands along the tree line. So I'm not a huge fan of that, like throwing the same shot over and over. And I think Houghton does the same thing, where you're just riding a tree line on your right, and it just is a big backhand or a big forehand every single time. So doing the same shot at the tee 3 times in a row, got to knock it off a little bit and bring it down a little lower. I would say probably behind Shadow Pines. Next up is Parma. This is another S tier course. There's a reason it's going to be on the Pro Tour. It has some history again. 2014 RFDO. A lot of big names have played here. You can go watch Paul Macbeth play on YouTube. He played here in 2014. It's a great course, and I love the work they've done with it. Lots of love being put into this course. It's definitely the best in Rochester right now. So this is the Rochester and Buffalo right here. I think it's pretty good. And we're going to add in 2 courting courses, Denison and Ironwood. Denison is going to sit right at the front of B tier. Actually, we'll put it right above. We'll put it above Williamson and A. I think Denison's really good. They just put new tee pads in. I think last year I would have set it to B with the other public park courses, but I went and played there recently, and they have new tee pad. They've changed it a little bit, and it seems like they're doing some work on it, and it's actually a very good course. So I think it's a easy A tier course. And Ironwood, also an A tier, kind of similar to Farmer Woods. It's one guy that owns it, and he does a lot of work. I think this could be like a high A tier course if you replace the gravel tee pads with concrete or turf tee pads, but that might be difficult with maintenance and paying for it and stuff. But this is a really great course, super fun. There's a couple of pars I think need to be changed, but I don't think it's been around that long, and it's maintained by like basically just one guy. So this is a fantastic course, super fun to play. I would not go in the summer because I think the flies are pretty bad, but in the spring and in the fall, I think this is a great course to play. So that's my tier list. These are pretty much all of the courses in New York that I've played. Let me know what you think. If you change anything, let me know in the comments. Leave a like, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 4.